I'm 32 male, never really fit in with my family. Growing up, I was always the odd one out, the disappointment compared to my siblings and cousins. It didn't matter that I worked hard, paid my bills on time, and never asked for anything. To them, if I wasn't flaunting success, I was a nobody. But what they didn't know, I was the reason they weren't drowning in debt. I never told them, of course. They never deserved that kind of honesty. But when my father's business failed, I quietly covered his mortgage. When my aunt racked up thousands in medical bills, I made sure they were mysteriously paid. When my mother cried about credit card debt, I arranged anonymous payments so she wouldn't lose her precious lifestyle. And how did they repay me? By mocking me behind my back at a family dinner. So yeah, they had no idea what was coming. This happened last weekend at my cousin's birthday party. I wasn't planning on going, but my mother guilt-tripped me about family obligations, so I gave in. The moment I got there, I could feel the judgment. Side eyes in my 10-year-old car. Forced smiles. That fake enthusiasm when they asked what I'd been up to, only to tune out halfway through my answer. I was already planning my escape when I stepped outside for some air, and that's when I heard them. My aunt, laughing. He'll always be a worthless nobody. Look at him, 32, no wife, no success, nothing. If he wasn't family, I'd feel sorry for him. Then my father. He should be grateful we even invite him. He brings nothing to the table. Laughter. From my mother, my cousin, the people I had been quietly supporting for years. I should have walked away. Should have let it slide. But something inside me just snapped. They had the luxury to mock me because I was the one keeping their lives afloat. So I left, and I made sure they felt it. That night, I canceled every single financial lifeline I'd set up for them. My father's mortgage? I had been covering it for nearly 2 years without him knowing. Payment due in 3 days. I canceled it. My aunt's medical bills? I had arranged a private payment plan on her behalf. I revoked it. My mother's credit card? The auto payments I had set up? Gone. And then I went to bed. By morning, my phone was exploding with calls and texts. First was my mother. My credit card was declined. Did you forget to make the payment? I took my time before answering. No, I didn't forget. I just stopped paying. Her voice shot up. You stopped? Are you serious? How could you do this to your own mother? How could you laugh at your own son for being worthless while spending money I earned? Silence. Then the excuses started. I didn't mean it like that. You're being too sensitive. You know we love you. I hung up. Next was my father. The bank just called. They're saying my mortgage payment wasn't processed. Do you know anything about this? Yeah, I stopped paying it. A long pause. Then, fury. You were the one paying. Why the hell would you stop? Because, apparently, I bring nothing to the table. So I figured you wouldn't want my help anymore. Silence. Then, in a low, angry voice, you ungrateful little brat. After everything we've done for you. I actually laughed. Everything you've done for me? Like what? Mocking me while I quietly saved your house. Treating me like a failure while living off my money. I'm your father, and I'm your son, not your personal ATM. I hung up again. Then came my aunt, and this one was my favorite. No hello. No please. Just straight up entitlement. I just got a call from collections. My medical bills aren't paid. Fix it. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. No. What do you mean no? Do you know what kind of stress this puts me under? Maybe the same kind of stress that comes from hearing your own family call you a worthless nobody. Oh, don't be dramatic. You know we were just joking. Well, guess what? So was my money. Then for the first time in her life, she actually begged. Please, I can't afford this. You can't just stop paying. I can. And I did. You're punishing me for nothing. I smiled. No, I'm just letting you handle your own responsibilities. Isn't that what adults do? And then, just like that, I ended the call. The fallout was glorious. By the afternoon, my phone was still buzzing nonstop, but I ignored every call. My mother left a dozen voicemails, all cycling through different tactics, guilt-tripping, fake-crying demands. My father, on the other hand, went full rage mode, sending furious texts about how I was destroying the family and how I'd regret this. And my aunt? She sent a single, pathetic message. You're a selfish brat. Don't expect us to be there when you need help. As if they'd ever been there for me. By the next day, the real panic set in. My father showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on my door like a debt collector. I let him stew outside for a bit before finally opening it. He was red-faced, breathing hard, and holding a stack of overdue bills. "You're going to fix this. Now." I leaned against the doorframe. "No, I'm not." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "The bank is saying they'll start foreclosure in 3 months. I don't have that kind of money." I shrugged. "Then maybe you should have saved some instead of laughing at the one person who was helping you." His jaw clenched. "We didn't mean those things." I chuckled. "You did. You just didn't think I'd hear." His voice dropped to a growl. "You owe us." And that's when I lost my patience. "I owe you? For what? For being treated like a failure while I quietly save your house? For being mocked while keeping this family from collapsing? Nah, I don't owe you a thing." His hands curled into fists. "You're making a mistake." I smiled. "No, Dad. The mistake was assuming I'd always be too much of a pushover to stand up for myself." And then I shut the door in his face. By the end of the week, the full consequences hit. My father lost the house. My mother had a downgrade to a smaller apartment. My aunt? She was drowning in debt and trying to fight the hospital overpayments, but they weren't budging. They all tried to spin the story, telling extended family that I had betrayed them. But the truth had a funny way of coming out. I started telling people what really happened, how I had been secretly supporting them for years, how they had laughed at me behind my back, how they had mocked the very person keeping them afloat. People took my side, and my entitled family, they were left with nothing but their own bad decisions. Do I regret it? Not for a second. And to anyone dealing with ungrateful, entitled family, sometimes the best way to teach them a lesson is to walk away and let them deal with the mess they made. Now, if you enjoyed watching entitlement get crushed under the weight of karma, go ahead and subscribe. Trust me, there's plenty more where this came from.